Welcome to the Extra Time Podcast, where you'll hear sports stories you might not have heard about from people you might not have heard of. Let's get into this week's show.
Well, hello there and welcome in to another episode of the Extra Time Podcast. This one's a little bit different. You'll see me in my footy kit because it is the football episode, the special edition number 1. We're just talking football and I'm that keen I've headbutted my mic. If you want to hear anything about any other sports, we've done a separate podcast on Aussies Around the Grounds covering Paralympics, F1, darts and the rest, US Open as well. So that is on the channel already if you want to go check that one out. This one is just footy because the AFL season is that big and we're going into finals that we had to separate the Yap boys because it would have been 3 hours if we didn't do so. So this is just the AFL one. Stay tuned because we're going to be talking all things AFL season 2024, which did finish over the weekend. And to do so, I've got my two favourite redheads with me. Mark Woods, welcome back in.
I'm not sure if it's too favourite. I'm sure your brother will be a bit jealous on that.
Happy birthday to Zach. Turned 18 on the weekend.
However, I don't know how I feel. I'm a bit up and about, but I'm sitting across from a Carlton supporter.
Yes, that
So
Carlton
Yes,
supporter
I am indeed.
who you would have seen to my left in the opener. Josh, welcome for your footy podcast debut.
Thank you, Boxy. Good to be here to dissect all of the action from the 24 rounds.
That's not Woodsy's son. It's just a great part of the Extra Time team. As old as Woodsy looks and as young and fresh as Josh looks, it is not Woodsy's son, unfortunately. But could be. Either way, we move on, and I'm going to introduce a new segment. This one's called Favourite Footy Find from the Week. So, all of us here, if we have one... That happened to me before.
Oh, dear. Oh.
Oh,
Cut. Take again. Yeah.
Just keep going. Favourite footy find.
all of us, if we have one, anything that we find, whether it's a story, a big talking point, something we didn't like, something we loved, we'll just add it in there because we want to talk about it. It doesn't really fit anywhere else. And I want to open up with my boy Dyson Heppel. I said a few weeks ago when he was announcing his retirement from the game that he might be one of the best Gippslanders to play AFL. Just the way he represents himself, the way he carries himself and the way he inspires everybody that he comes into contact with, and even those he doesn't come into contact with, those that follow him, and the way he plays the game as well. But specifically, it was his final game. He did end up getting that farewell game, which
is good to see. It was disappointing it wasn't in front of his own home fans at Marvel, but
he got to take everybody on a nice holiday up to Brisbane, and someone surprised him, and that is Jamin, who I've actually been in contact with, one of the greatest human beings I have ever met in my life. He did a little bit of a program with us called Making Men in Year 9, just to make sure we're all on track, and really got us, down to earth as people and as adults, and really helped me with a lot of the stuff I was going with and the mental mess I was going through at that time. So changed my life, it's fair to say, and that's the sort of person Jamin is. He runs that sort of business, changes lives, game changers, and one of the really remarkable and great human beings, as all the Heppels are. But he had been living overseas for the last 2 years, and he surprised Dyson. He had no idea Jamin was going to be there. And his brother came over for his last game. Aaron is overseas. He didn't make it, but I'm sure they'll be playing together next year at the Leongatha Parrots Woods, so he can celebrate Dyson's career there. But, it was just so good to see Dyson and the family celebrate his career. He's been one of the best bombers I've ever seen in this era since I started watching AFL. Hasn't been that long, only been about 18 years. But he's epitomised what it means to be a footballer, what it means to come from the country. He's an absolutely gorgeous man. Here he is with his main man, H, who is getting his own clothing label called H. And I'm pretty sure it's set up so, a lot of the proceeds go to help his condition and all those like it. Scleroderma, I believe it is. And the hoodies that they've actually teased look really, really cool. So I'll be getting one of those. I think they have H's own designs on them. This is a great flick as well, sort of like that Roman painting.
Great photo.
He's sort of, I don't know what it's called, that famous Roman painting, but he's just sticking it out, pointing to, I'm sure H or someone in the crowd. He's just somebody that everybody has a connection to, Dyson Heppel. He's not the best footballer ever. He'll even admit that. But that is my footy find for the week, boys. A great career, and hopefully I'll get to see him live down back at Gatha next year.
Well, it should be good, and Such a great
He also
flick.
showed him he still had it as well. Sorry to cut you off, he had 34 touches,
Oh.
if you don't mind, in his last
Not
game.
too
Well,
bad if you ask me.
Exciting to see what he's going to do. Liam Gather, you said next season. Watch
I
out.
believe little rumours at the moment. He wants to play with Aaron, his brother, who played a bit of Essendon VFL, never really broke into the senior team. Haven't played together in years.
I think we better make a call to
Aaron-
Masala.
Aaron
Just try and get them both.
has played at Gathra, I think, recently.
Ah,
They're from there. They play juniors there. And I think Dice might go down and coach. And if you don't
So it
mind,
should
Liam
be
Gathra
good.
has won the last 3 premierships.
well, they
almost
might
unopposed,
win
so.
the next few if they get the Hebel brothers there. Mine's not as touching of a story, but it's just something I found really funny, I should say. So obviously, being a Saints fan, watching the Saints game, I was at work, and obviously my work, I've actually got to cover what the games that are on and the games that are upcoming. So I had Saints on one, and nervous wreck there. I had the Fremantle Port Adelaide game on the other monitor. Now I'm going to go into St Kilda Carlton a bit later on, but the Fremantle Port Adelaide game, watching it alongside when we kicked the goal, this vision came up. Now, these are just screenshots, obviously, but it's the moment that it happened, and they were just cutting to the crowd and seeing different crowd reaction shots. I think this is the first time that Fremantle supporters have celebrated anything that St Kilda have done, or more importantly, Ross Lyon has done, because, I mean, let's be real. I mean, okay, he got him to a grand final, but
Were they really there? No.
which leads me, I think, the perfect segue of the fans celebrating and how great of a fixturing masterclass or marvelous mastermind it was.
Turned out well, didn't it, in the end?
Yeah, well, Friday was a bit of a mad game, and we'll talk about the Friday controversy.
Mm.
Look,
But
I've
then you go into Saturday, and your games.
no,
so
look,
none
I've been
of the games on
handing them
Saturday.
all year, and I hate their fixturing, and I wasn't massively happy on the weekend either. I mean, the Friday night game was horrendous,
Mm.
and there was no reason that even Collingwood supporters really wanted to tune into it.
Yeah.
We were talking to Alice Wilson, Extra Time Zone, and she said, "Do I go home when the rain delay went?" I'm like, "Yes, you go home. What's the point of actually watching you win this game? You're not going to lose from here.
Yeah.
And what, you're just going to see Nick Dacos get a few more easy ones out the back? Like,
It's the Brownlow medal winning game.
so maybe they could have fixed that up and done one of the more meaningful ones on
Yeah.
Friday. But outside of that, all I've been asking for all year was, you could probably take these words out of my mouth, put the trash on Saturday afternoon, put the games people actually want to watch on Sunday or in the prime time slot.
Mm.
Yeah.
That's exactly what they did for the first time. It only took them 24 weeks.
I think the thing with the Friday night game is back when they were fixturing it, and there's a lot of conjecture, and we'll talk about that in a second, but I'll go back to the main point because there is a lot to digest with that point that you make. But just the Doggies Giants game had implications on the 8, played in Ballarat.
Direct
Dogs'
ones, yeah.
advantage. Great for them to win, so they get that away from home final against Hawthorn. But then it was St Kilda Carlton, and I mean, what a game to end on. And I was in the office watching with a few Carlton fans, and I must admit, I was literally directly in a room opposite mine as a
What
Carlton
happened? I
fan, and
think-
we're discussing. And
I think
it
you've
was,
chosen the photo of the week around it. Show us what happened.
Well,
if you don't
I think
know,
the
I'm sure
photo
you
of the
do.
week is the biggest moment of round 24 was the aftermath of Jack Higgins' goal. Now, I will rub it in. I'm
Go
not going to be
ahead.
sorry about it.
Fair enough.
If you can't tell by his laptop, Josh is
I'm just going to call it
I
right
do
now.
have a 2024 member sticker that I haven't actually put on, but it should go right here. But
I'm
And
just,
it's one of those ones. It's like
I'm
the
calling
Elliott
it
one
right
from
now.
a
I'm
few
calling
years
it
ago.
right now. I'm calling it right now. That was goal of the year.
Not a chance.
Why? Tell me a better goal.
Harley Reid won that 4
Moment.
months ago,
Oh, so.
and the moment means nothing now because Freo lost.
No, but moment to win a game out of a clearance with
Regulation
a wall
snap.
of men.
From 35.
No, but with a wall of men, you get the ball under pressure,
yeah,
final minute of the game, like 12 seconds was left on
20
the
seconds
clock.
or something. Yep.
Nick Dacos weaving through traffic on the Gold Coast, gets around 2 defenders after setting up the play at halfback.
Like I put
Keeps
the
Collingwood in the
benchmark.
game.
I put the benchmark of Matthias Philippou.
That's a regulation snap from 35 metres out.
I actually have to disagree.
If you can if you can match the conditions and kick a goal,
Do you want to bring up the video of my goal? It's very similar.
oh, right in front, no pressure. Nah,
I could name you 20 goals that are better than that one.
really?
It's regulation, mate. Yes, it won them the game, but it's
No. You
not
think
special.
You think it was actually regulation, not special. What about you?
The level of trajectory that he actually got from that kick
He shanked
was
it.
incredible.
He shanked
incredible.
it as well. He
No.
bellied
It
it.
just went over.
Yeah.
he,
as
he
well.
put it on
Just
the
went
boot,
over.
like
So if
literally.
it's goal of the year, it has to be executed perfectly. And he bellied the footy and it barely made it over. And probably could have been touched if they were on the goal line.
I think
set
we
up.
can all agree, though, that there's been some
No,
tremendous
I'm
goals.
going like home. My
Tremendous goals.
benchmark was Matthias Philippou in the wet. On the boundary line, 50 metres out. If you don't know that goal,
That's great.
yeah.
I think
I think
Harley's
this goal beats it because of everything in it about it. The fact that it came from a ruck tap, the amount of pressure.
Hmm.
Like, Harley Reid, yeah, okay, how much actual pressure? Yes, he defends off people and then runs on to kick a goal. But in this moment, like, how much pressure? You get the ball and you've just got to basically, in the moment,
So what's Mac Andrews ranked in
which goal?
the match winner
Oh,
after
the
after
set
Sarnia,
shot.
isn't it?
The
Yeah.
set shot,
pressure?
but the set
It's
shot.
the same thing. You're saying so, but it's pressure. The pressure's the only big thing about this Higgins goal.
So
Everything else
You're saying
is
you
regulation.
could kick that every day of the week.
Yes. If I was an AFL player and I get paid to kick goals from
Wall
inside
of players
50,
in a contest.
wasn't a wall of players. He handballed him clear out of the stoppage.
Rewatch it.
Yeah, so wait, it was Zach Jones that gave it over to him for that shot, wasn't it?
It was Zach
I
know
Jones
that.
that got it to him, and without him being under pressure from anybody really.
Rewatch it.
Like,
Mm.
how many times would
But-
Jack Higgins do that at training?
Oh, that exact thing.
Get the ball quickly,
That
snap,
exact
goal.
scenario, I'm
Yeah.
not sure.
Like
I'm not sure.
you've got to.
I think it's an absolute joke. It's nowhere near goal of the year.
Well, we'll wait and see. And
the
wait
only
and see
thing
if
that
it
gets
is
it there is the fact
goal of
that
the week.
it's
Would
late.
you be? You're not even going. By what you've just said, it will not even be in the goal of the week nominations.
Well, goal of the week's stupid.
No. I'm asking you.
There's 24 of them, Woods. Only 3 of them get in the goal of the year final.
Hmm.
Yeah. So
true.
I'm asking you, will it be in the goal of the week? And I'm actually googling this right
well,
now.
I will tell you that I was working all weekend, so I didn't really see any of the other goals. James Sicily kicked one from outside 50 in the wet. That was pretty nice.
That was impressive. Absolutely.
It's a bit harder than kicking it
so
from
I
45
actually
on your
don't know,
preferred
okay.
foot, snapping at goal, and he butchered it.
Okay,
The only
so
thing that gets that close, Woods, is it won them the
was
game.
Nick Watson's goal better?
On the run, the snap.
Yeah, they're this week's Nick Watson. Like I don't know.
Probably.
I'm basically going in this live reaction now on who's actually being nominated.
Hmm.
So there's also Jacob Bauer.
Bauer.
Oh,
Okay, which was a set shot, Dom Sheed-esque, and then rewatching this Jack Higgins. Like, yeah, Jack Higgins was the third nomination. I'm glad that he got the nomination. Rewatched it. Like, everything about it was like, he got the ball, then ran into the clear,
he did.
then
Yeah.
snapped. So, like, that in itself is just,
So he's in the clear, so he wasn't under pressure.
he ran into the clear. He got the ball, ran, but still, there was a wall of players in front of him.
Players kick those snaps in every game. The only thing that gets it there is that he won them the game, and it was late in the fourth quarter.
Well, let's wait and see. But
That's
I'm
nowhere even
calling it
close.
now.
If Philippou kicks his set shot properly and doesn't miss,
True.
the Higgins goal isn't close.
What,
So it's not goal of the year.
Higgins one isn't close. Where
It's not. It just won them the game, which
But-
for the
but
Saints
guess what? Guess
means
what?
nothing. That win
Philippou-
means nothing for the
Philippou
Saints.
didn't kick the goal. So guess what? Situational. You can't go, well, if this happened, if that happened. It's
Jamie
like if
Elliott's
Tom
one
Hawkins
is better
didn't. If
from
Tom
2 years
Hawkins'
ago.
goal was actually called it correctly and hit the
Mm.
post, St Kilda would have probably won the 2009 premiership. Now, sorry,
Going
Lorenzo.
back in history there, yeah.
If
Yeah, sorry,
Jamie Elliott's
Lorenzo.
one
Yeah.
when he sunk Carlton 2 years ago is better than that
Yeah, but
because
guess,
it put Collingwood in the top 4.
guess what?
Mm.
That was 2
It
years
does
ago.
nothing for St Kilda.
Yeah, well, I'm calling it. I might be wrong. People in the comments, please let us
Yep,
know
please let
what
us
you
know.
think, because
I think they'll probably give it to Dacos because they glaze him. But I
They
think
do
Harley.
glaze him every week.
I
Especially
think
on the
Harley
socials,
Reid's is
so
the
I
goal
lie.
of the year.
But you talk about it does nothing for St
But
Kilda.
he's a good player.
Now, I think that's another perfect segue into this, right? Get this photo back up here because of
This is horrendous.
it almost actually happened. It almost happened. We
Did.
said this thing. We set the story
This is-
perfectly.
Yeah, but like I'm sorry, I'm sounding very, very critical on this
Why?
podcast. But why would you're the Grinch? That gets you where? Like, have a laugh now if you want, Ross. That's great, but carry this season
Oh.
throughout the season. Carry this form
I
throughout
agree.
the season.
I can't,
and I
can't
reckon you'll
disagree.
agree with
Can't
this.
disagree. Can't disagree with that.
The bloke needs to knuckle
However,
down.
however, guess what?
I don't like Ross.
There was about
Don't like him.
5 games we lost by under 15 points.
Win them.
If we win them, we're secured in the 8.
But you know why you didn't
But-
win them? Because they weren't playing like they are now. And it happens with
I
Ross
agree.
every year. So and
Good
I
form the
hate
last
him.
fortnight for sure.
hate
No,
the
no,
bloke.
good form in
Like
the last
average along.
6
Him
weeks.
Him and Ken Hinkley.
We
Also
won
before that.
five of the last 6 weeks.
Yeah.
After the bye, we had really good form. It was before the bye. We were still finding our feet and trying to figure out our
You were-
identity.
You were hanging for the bye.
And I,
Hmm.
and I basically said, like, I'm there going, this, it's frustrating footy at times, and I'm there going, okay, but in the end, at the end of the season, okay, they're not tanking. They're not going, oh, if we win this game, we go up to 7th, but if we lose, we go up, we stay 5th draft pick. I had comments of, oh, you're celebrating you going up to places in the draft order. I'm like,
Mm.
I want to beat Carlton. I don't want to lose to Carlton.
No, and they played so well. And that's what I mean. It's frustrating. And I
Like,
think off the back of that, it's the same with
Ken.
Ken Hinkley. They're
Yeah.
just grossly overrated. Because, like, it's why are they getting praised so much for winning games late in the season when obviously the players are just going, oh, yeah, we'll have a crack.
Mm.
No, well,
Like, coaches should
It
be
turns
praised
out-
for going mid-year when you're struggling. Did you turn them around and win them games and get them into September?
Yeah.
You did. Well done.
I think there's a lot more to it, like, especially with St Kilda where they're at the moment, with the shaping and building Ross's list.
Yeah.
And I think this off-season you're going to see a lot. Obviously, Seb Ross has just announced, it's just been announced that he won't get another contract.
Mhm.
Tom Campbell, Matty Allison.
Bonner, getting rid of Bonner's a great
Vanessa
start.
Riley
Bonner.
Bonner. Yeah.
Bonner, again, yep. Don't get me started on him,
You
please,
can't
because...
break the record for turnovers in a game and think that you...
Yeah.
But the
Mm.
thing
Please-
with
please
him,
don't get
just
me started.
quickly, like, you can't hit the $1 million kick every time you have the ball, man.
Yeah.
That's true.
But
So
you got
have
to...
fun in the VFL.
But
next
hold
year.
on, you can't. Well, what does Wangani Malera do almost every time he gets the ball? He is the absolute,
Yeah.
like he
He's
is
a great
abs-
kid.
no, he's
The
a
difference
he's a
is
great
he
kid.
takes the simple
Absolutely.
one when it's there.
Yeah.
Bonner doesn't take the simple.
Like the thing that annoys me with some of the players, and it's not just Saints players. There's any, they miss the easy options
Hmm,
and they go
that's true.
to the things that are usually turnovers, or it's frustrating. But having said that, having said the players that we've got rid of so far,
And having been ripping the Saints in the last few minutes, it's very positive because that game style late in the year,
Yeah.
I was very enjoying watching the Saints.
and I think that
I
that's
think it's
going to
positive.
be
It brings your young guys into it.
You're
that-
right.
that's going to
Absolutely.
be one of the factors in terms of, I mean, if you watch the trivia, you'll know. I don't know if this comes out. This probably comes out before the trivia, so there's a bit of a spoiler here.
Stay on the channel. Make sure you
So
stick around.
just remember this
Actually
one,
watch
so
all
then
of
you
it?
can
Absolutely,
actually
yeah.
remember. But you almost broke my heart because I couldn't remember him. I'd already forgotten this bloke, that he was a Saints player, Josh Battle. But there's been reports about this. Saints are making a last-ditch effort and he's torn, which goes to show that there's a small chance that he could stay. And I think the form after the bye for the team and the might be
Yeah.
the culture feel around the club
Mm.
is partly to do with it, where
Oh, it's
he is such a critical part.
yeah. That form
Honestly,
is so clutch.
if he goes, we're taking a few steps backwards next season because we need to fill that gap. However, if he stays, that confidence of
that late season form,
our back line,
it's so
our
clutch.
back line is
'cause
absolutely amazing. Our forward line, it's good. We need to stop targeting Max King all the time.
Yep.
And creating the options. So
Start targeting more options in your forward
Yeah.
line. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then guess what? All we need to do is work out in midfield, get a good, strong.
You'll get a couple picks.
Yeah.
It's a strong
Yeah.
draft as well.
There's
It's a good draft year.
rumors
Great
about
draft years, yeah.
rumors about Dan Houston, preferring St Kilda. Whether that's true or not, we'll have to wait and see. So there's puzzle pieces are falling into place, but we need to be able to have a good preseason and just start strong. However, when I say starting strong, I'm going to actually have the serve over to you now, because I know we usually talk about Hawthorn after all the other games of the round. I just want to talk about Hawthorn and highlight that they were 0-5.
Yeah, and you've actually done that very well. I'm not sure if you've seen that I haven't written too much this week, Woods. I always say I won't talk much, and then I talk for a long time, but today I'm not actually going to be talking much. The game, not much else to say. We won by 120 points in the pouring rain. I'll say it again. 120 points, rare on its own, in the pouring rain. Not sure if that talks more about us or North Melbourne. Don't really care. We got the win, and nobody really got too injured. Nashy got a bad corky, but he's tough as nails. He'll play in the finals. We're in the finals, boys. And I'll say it again. At the start of the year, with our injury list, which was horrific, we lose Blanky at the start. Mitchie Lewis was injured at the start. Wingard hasn't played a game this year, one of our senior players. And I was just thinking, CJ was on there as well. Will Day was on there. I was thinking, there's no chance we win 4 games. And that's why at the start of the year, I said I'd wear a jumper every time we win. Because I thought, honestly, might wear it 4 times for the year. I've worn it like 13 times. Woodsy's sick of me.
I know. I will give him his dues. Now,
a pact is a pact. And I did not give finals one single half consideration.
You see, I want to actually give you 2 points here. Rewind the podcast a couple of weeks or months ago now, and you're like, we were sitting 13th, and I'd actually done the calculations after this went with what you said, and I'm like, you can't actually drop it low. Like, unless you lose every game and Adelaide won every game, that's the only way for you to have dropped. And I'm like, you were like, if we're here at the end of the year, I'm happy. I'm like, mate, you're seriously a contender for finals, and at that time I'm there going, you could win the flag. Like, that was the starting sniff, because you were just the team that showed up every week no matter what. Okay, yes, you've had a few major losses, a few losses since then. Geelong is the one I'm thinking of, but
and the Giants,
and Giants was a narrow loss.
They're the only 2 we've had since.
But it's like those 2 losses, and it's like you showed up, you knew what to expect, because an interesting fact here, how many Hawthorn players grew up supporting Hawthorn?
Quite a lot.
There was, and
that's why Jack came over.
Hawthorn posted, like, doing it for these youngsters, and it was just them as kids, right? Yeah. And it really made me think that Hawthorn's secret to success is the fact that they've got Hawthorn players who all their life, before they got drafted, bled Hawks.
It's a good way to be.
And now
I recommend it.
Either they got drafted to Hawthorn, or they've been traded back. Like Ginnivan's traded into it. Where it's, guess what? It's not a culture where it's we're here because we're collecting a paycheck and we grew up supporting Carlton or St Kilda or whoever. It's, no, I grew up. And for these players, it was literally, I grew up.
You know what the other thing is?
What?
They grew up watching him.
Well, it's about that's
and who's the coach?
What was my point going to be?
Yeah.
They grew up 2008, 2013, 2014, 2015. I'm sure that the Hawthorn players that grew up supporting Hawthorn are there going, I want to be that next page in the Hawthorn Premiership history book.
And
I want to write that. And you're right.
Yeah.
Sam Mitchell, I mean, he's such...
We need to play wavelength, because that's exactly what I was going to say next. This is exactly... what you just said is exactly why I included this photo, because when we started that run in 08, Mitch was the captain.
Yeah.
And now his fingerprints are all over the way we play.
Now, you might
It's
not win the
brash,
premiership
like we
this
were
year.
in 08.
No.
Brash,
Yeah.
young, probably shouldn't
Yeah.
have got anywhere near that
But
flag.
you might
in
not
the
win it
finals,
this year.
we were dangerous. James Sicily, this
experience,
is how
though.
this young
Yep.
team plays. When Sis came in, he was a little bit, in your face. Would just
Yeah.
try silly stuff, but he wasn't scared. None of these young guys are scared. Nick Watson is like 150 centimetres tall. I
Oh.
might be cutting him a few there. But he is the biggest goer in the whole comp.
He plays with so much freedom, doesn't he?
He would scare
so
the
much
life
freedom.
out of me because he
Yeah.
doesn't stop coming
As
at
I
you.
said,
That's what Jim used
Hawks
to be
are my
like.
premiership favourites right now because of what I've just mentioned. Even if you don't win the flag this year, you've got this great foundation of finals experience now to build
Passion.
yourself.
Yeah.
And I was wrong. You know what I'm about to say next, I hope, because I was wrong. And I can't believe that basically when you about 5 weeks into the start of the run of Hawks winning, or after about their 5th win it would have been, you've gone, Sam Mitchell's coach of the year. Sam Mitchell's coach of the year. And at that point I'm there going, mate, like, you're going to be lucky if you make the top 8. Like,
I got absolutely berated.
just calm down. Just, like, sit down. Just be quiet. Just watch it for a little bit longer. See what happens. And then about a month ago it was, I'm there going, well, top 3 at the moment. I can't pick.
I was
I
saying
couldn't pick.
he's top 3 at least because you were laughing at me that I said he's the best in the comp, and then you wouldn't even give me that.
No,
If he doesn't win it now, it is an absolute farce.
I agree. Like, this is the thing. I'm saying I was wrong because of what he's been able to do with the club.
And that turnaround.
And it
From
was
0-5.
after round 5 where,
Third team to make it ever.
yeah, I'm pretty sure it was round 5 where he said to the playing group, "Bring your mouth guard to training."
Yep.
After that,
And even the media and the experts
Yeah.
were hating that.
the
That's what I'm
mentality of the
saying.
club,
They don't care that they're doing stuff differently.
the players
they just do it.
No, I think it's the players that they're going rather than you basically going there and it's okay. You're there collecting your paycheck and getting told, "Oh, bring your mouth guard to training." It's more so, actually, no, it's time to be serious. Like, do I want to? For the Hawthorn fan, I'll start off with the Hawthorn
Yep.
supporters, right? The players that are Hawthorn supporters, they're going, if I want to keep playing for the club that I grew up loving, I have got to up my level. I've got to take it a lot more seriously. It's not just show up, make the numbers of the competition. It's, well, shit, we can actually go. Now, there's 4 games left for the year for 2 teams. Obviously, it might be 3. But for Hawthorn, I'm just going for Hawthorn. If they are to make a grand final and win the premiership, there's 4 games. But Sam Mitchell actually highlighted that. And this was a couple of weeks ago, I think, when there was 6 games left if they wanted to actually hold the trophy. He's like, we're not thinking that far ahead. We're only thinking as far as the next game.
Game by
Hawthorn's been playing finals for a month
Yeah.
already.
And so it's like they've had that mentality. How far can they go? They've obviously got the doggies in week 1,
Yeah.
and we'll touch on the finals next
cracker.
week.
Yeah. So next week on this special footy edition, which will be going on for the next month and a bit, will be our finals preview. So make sure you stick around for that. But that was the last thing I was going to say about the Hawks this week. Great win, set us up pretty nicely. We were in the top 4 for a moment, but then the West Coast Eagles decided to do us no favours. And we will play the Western Bulldogs at the MCG. We'll be the away team, which doesn't really make a difference outside of the rooms. But that is the hardest one. If we are to play 4 more games, Woods, it's a massive call seeing the
I
Eliminator
honestly
is the
think-
hardest one.
I honestly think
The
that
Dogs match up with us perfectly. Our big plus over the last month has been our midfield dominance. They've got the best midfielder in the comp. They've got a hard-nosed midfielder in Tom Liberatore, who will go head-to-head with John Newcomb. And then they've got Ed Richards, who is the most, nothing to superhero player in the comp. Like, people forget Ed Richards. He's playing
He's been
on
fantastic
the
lately.
level of Marcus Bontempelli.
Well, I've already
sometimes
said
better.
that the
Fantastic.
winner,
And then
of-
they've got Adam Treloar, who's leading disposal winner.
yeah, the winner
Yeah,
of that
tons
game.
ball.
I've said it quite a bit now. The winner
And I
of
haven't
that
even
game,
mentioned their forward line, which is going to absolutely stretch us because
Oh.
I'm not sure who plays on Sam Darcy. We haven't got anyone tall enough for that. Jamari Ugle-Hagan is an absolute hybrid. So I think it's going to be, and the most important thing and the biggest reason they match up really well with us is because they're one of the fittest sides in the comp, and they're very, very quick as well. So it could be an absolute shootout, which is horrendous for Hawks or Dogs fans because it's going to be very,
I think
very
the win of that
stressful.
game will definitely be a good chance the following week. So you could
It's going to be a ripper
you
nonetheless.
could almost pencil in that they could make the prelim. Now, I did say to you guys, I think the premiership team will be coming from that prelim final. The Hawthorn or Doggies, mate, if they make it, they'll be playing either Sydney or GWS, I believe. So they'll play the loser, Port Adelaide, Geelong in a semi, and I could be wrong. It could be the top 4 final series again, but this truly is one of the first finals series where since 2016 with the Dogs run, ironically or coincidentally, I can actually see any of these 8 teams winning the flag.
Yeah.
And I think that...
Well, even in 2016, no one really thought the Dogs could until they got those first 2 wins. I think everyone had Sydney in 2016 for sure because they were easily the best team. I did see a stat during the week that every single time the Hawks and Dogs have played each other in the finals, at least one of them's played in the grand final. So that's pretty good. And honestly, the Dogs, they don't get enough credit from where they came from. When we beat them earlier in the year, Beveridge was done. They were going with absolutely no game plan. Like Bontempelli was just literally holding them up by, with both arms because they were awful, and they were absolutely shot. And now everyone's been saying they're the most formed team in the comp for the last month, and they've made it. They're very dangerous. Sam Darcy is going to be purely unstoppable next year and for coming years. He's a star. And I've said them all again. And the Rory Lobb move's been great. It's going to be a great final. I don't hate that call at all, Woods. I think that Sydney qualifying final is an early prelim for me. I think the team that loses that is going to have a very hard run. But the team that win, because the Sydney teams have been the benchmark of the comp all year. They've been up there.
Yeah.
I think that's massive as well. But that's enough finals preview. We've got more of the season to talk about because we're going to recap it. To go back to the final round, we've mentioned it a little bit already. The Friday night needs no mention. It's pointless. It's a dead rubber. It was awful to watch. There was lightning. The Pies won by 46. The Dacos has run rampant.
Before you say you don't want to talk about dead rubber, now this was the fixturing thing I wanted to talk about.
Okay.
When the fixturing for the last round come out, everybody complained about, they needed out earlier and earlier. The problem is, at the time where this was released, they were both realistically still a chance. Collingwood more so than Melbourne. And this is why it's like, hold on. They want to go it as late as possible, but at the same time, it's like you can't predict the future in terms of fixturing. Melbourne and Collingwood were Collingwood more so final chances. You mentioned the Lightning, and obviously that was a fun time in itself. I was working and... I did say...
Here's extra 45 minutes.
I literally jinxed myself. I literally jinxed myself because I was like, we're going to get out of here by a certain time. Right? Half watching the football. Not even 2 minutes later, I'd go a minute later. Lightning happens. It gets called off. It gets... They literally stop the play a minute after I said... Because of its final quarter, I'm there going, okay, we've got to clip up presses and... Then I get to go. I'm like, we'll be out of here by 11:30, midnight at the latest. Definitely midnight. And it's just like, that happened. I'm like, it was just, everything was running smoothly and on time until that happened. But that to me was the highlight of the game was you don't usually get that. And then move on to the Saturday. You don't actually get this as well. A game got... moved around time slot, rescheduled, and trust me, on the Friday when it happened,
put up 170 points in pouring rain, and North Melbourne, who still again kick straight. I think they've got the crown as the most.
Up a bit later because of the game time, or what was the story?
They were good at the start actually, and then we put 10 goals on them in the last quarter and 8 in the second quarter. I must say that is what you need to be doing to go into the finals. You need to be decimating a side that is near the bottom of the ladder. Like, you can't be letting them get a close game Disappointing.
Like,
I mean,
you want
Alistair Clarkson opened up to him earlier in the year. Obviously, what is causing Alistair so much grief is the Hawthorn Football Club. You'd think they give him a little bit more fight. They clearly don't care about him, which is an absolute piss take. And I've been high on North Melbourne this year. I thought, I love North Melbourne. I give them heaps of praise. That was a piss take. They were awful. They gave no heart. Like, it's just an absolute joke. I'd be furious too if I was Alistair Clarkson, and apparently he gave him a big spray after, and that's fair.
Conceding 26 goals, by the way. And
in pouring rain.
Yeah, I'll say you got a good spread of goal kickers as well. Dylan Moore had 4, Watson 3.
Pretty sure Dill kicked his 4 in the last quarter, just to tie up Marbior on the season goal kicking
And if
list.
that wasn't enough, I mean, we almost had 2 games by more than 100 points, back to back.
Yeah, you had McDonald and Scholl for 3, Sicily, Ginnivan, Colcher, Deer, and D'Ambrosio and Bruce, respectively, all had 2, and Weddle and
I will give a big shout out
Gunston
to
had one
Colcher
as well.
Deer. I think he's had a great season.
Great young player.
Especially given the circumstances of drafted late, not really rated, and Hawthorn have really developed him.
He was a basketball
And it goes back to what I mentioned earlier, the culture of actually having Hawthorn people, and
they got their heart in
Jack
it.
Gunston,
which is
I
why
think
they're
you
so
mentioned,
hungry.
he wouldn't be the player he is without Jack Gunston.
Yeah, 100%.
But
and it's shared experience and it's shared passion.
Yeah.
And most importantly, like I've been saying, it's heart which gives you the hunger to keep going because you love the club on a different level than most do. And you mentioned that other one.
So exciting to watch as well when they're all in tandem. All the young kids, you got Kenzie,
best mates,
almost
like their brothers.
Wait and
Ambrosio,
see
you got lots
years,
of McDonald, Weddle.
Yeah,
fantastic.
Wait and see over the next couple of years. But
I've been telling you all year,
down the highway,
buy stocks in the Hawks, and maybe don't lose your stock in the Cats, as you say. West
Can't really
Coast,
say down the highway.
Talk
because
about
of the other game
out.
was Tasmania, but
checking out of the season.
Still called
the
still
dart
scored
with
75.
9 goals is probably as stiff as you can get to not be boy of the week. But an absolute bloodbath there. We'll move on to a little bit more of that later. Most of Saturday's games were absolute nothings. It was great that they cut away from Liam Shields getting chaired off to show us an absolute horrendous contest between Gold Coast and Richmond, which no one wanted to watch.
I actually want to mention something in this game, funnily enough. Now,
Well, it was great to see Dusty in that say goodbye.
Okay, yeah, great. But if you're watching the broadcast at the end and you're going, just tuned in at the end and going, oh, they're getting chaired off, you would have thought that Richmond had won. Because they followed them down into the rooms. I don't know if this was actual broadcast vision or if it's just the vision I got to see. That it was all on Richmond, nothing on Gold Coast, all on Richmond, and then they followed them into the rooms as if they had won.
I did the same thing for Dusty's 300th, which we won by 10 goals.
And it's like, okay, and then...
But they got to give them something. They were absolute dog water this year.
But
so
I think
enough on that.
enough,
the Gold Coast won by 28 points.
Enough of that. But then this one, Heppel's last game, and it
and
turned out...
they gave him something.
Turned out to be a little bit of a last-minute heart stopper, but not really.
Just a typical Brisbane game.
Last quarter, I mean, they've done it so many times, Brisbane, where they've let the opposition in only just to close the door on them. But
so pretty inaccurate in front of goal, 21 behinds.
We will mention
quietly.
that shortly, don't you worry. Yeah, they just don't know how to hold leads, and I have no faith in them. They are awful, especially at home.
So, what you're saying...
Dyson Heppel had 34, which was great to see.
What you're telling me...
Went down by 20, though, to the Lions.
And this can only happen in the grand final, but if Brisbane were to play the Dogs, you know the Dogs are running away with it because Brisbane can't hold a lead. I'm sorry, that was a bad joke, but I had to say it.
And you took a while to get it out, but it's out nonetheless. The Swans locked in the minor premiership by 31 points. Crows didn't give them too much trouble there. Pretty exciting contest. And then Sunday, it was clutch time.
Very
Dogs.
Windy down up in Ballarat.
The Giants didn't handle that wind very well, even though they usually do. They play well down at Ballarat. Not this time. 37-point winners were the Dogs. They got their part of the bargain sealed, as did your Saints, which I'm going to let you guys discuss in a moment. And then the Dockers embarrassed themselves, embarrassed me, embarrassed the whole AFL world by just, again, being completely incompetent in fourth quarters. It's like they just check out and forget that there's another quarter to play. Kicked badly, never really in it. And Willie Rioli sealed a home final for the Power. Will that matter? Who knows? We'll talk about that next week. But the game of the round, quite easily, was St Kilda versus Carlton. Boys, I'm going to let you dissect what happened there from both sides of the equation.
Oh, well, I'll let you start because I think I've already spoken about.
Sure. Yeah, well, obviously, I actually didn't watch much of it. I was actually at my brother's production for the first half, so don't have much to say on the first half. But overall, yeah, look, it wasn't great. It wasn't great. Our boys, Voss has always been having emphasis on contest and pressure. We did okay in that, but good ball winners. Walsh 32, Hewitt 32, Cripps 30. They all had some really good influence there, but yeah, again, just lacking that fourth quarter. Obviously, Saints ran over us in the end with a great Jack Higgins goal. Look at the timeline. Lots happening in the third quarter, combined of 10 goals.
And you don't see that often.
No.
Especially for a Saints game.
Yeah, true. But I'm going to interject on the Carlton front because I do want to acknowledge that I think had Carlton had all their players in, it's a very different game. But
St Kilda win by 10
dynamic.
goals. Yeah.
Yeah, like we would have played.
The last time they had them all there, or most of them, we absolutely blew them off the park.
Yeah, but Carlton haven't had the players that would be walk-ups into their first for number of weeks. So
I think
I
it's more
think
what
it's
you were
acknowledging Carlton, like a full-strength Carlton. I wouldn't say, and shout out to the Baggers Chat podcast here. I'm going to call them out on what they said. They said their best is the best in the league. I disagree. Their best is up there. I think their best could win them a flag because of it's such an even competition. But I think
their list is nearly the best in the league.
yeah,
Sure.
their
The way they
list-
play is not
list
close.
It goes deep, our
Yeah.
list, when everyone's...
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. I'm
Yeah.
like,
I'm with Josh. I think it's the way they move the ball and the way they defend and the way
Yeah.
they play. It's not close. But the list on paper says, yes, 100% I'm
on
with them.
paper they like challenging for a flag. Yep, no, not a problem. The problem is you don't win flags on paper.
100%.
You
Absolutely.
don't win flags by just saying this is our best 22 for the year, and guess what?
And my thing with
Oh,
them
X,
is...
Y, Z are injured. He's in bad form at the moment. He's not kicking straight or he's not taking the mark. Well, guess what? You're not going to win the flag. Carlton need to... it's one of those things where it's... And I'm envious of their list because their
let's
midfield
look-
is one of the best.
Yeah,
but
but
it's...
Let's look how they got there. Like, this is my one thing with them, right?
They stumbled over the line because of...
They didn't, though. They got carried over the line by West Coast, who were utterly horrendous because they've checked out, and that was with their best lineup at home.
No, I'm saying that they stumbled over the line in
And
the sense
and
of...
because Fremantle
Alright.
just forgot how to play
After
football.
round 14, remember, we've already said this stat, and you mentioned it last week. After round 14, Blues, Pies, and Bombers were in the top four. Carlton was sitting second, if I'm not mistaken,
Correct.
after round 14.
The last team Carlton beat, is it still North Melbourne? Or is it West Coast? It's West Coast, isn't
West Coast, yeah. We beat
it?
North
So the last
Melbourne
two teams they
the
beat
previous
was
game.
Yeah.
are on the bottom of the ladder.
No, and that's what I mean. They stumbled over the line.
They got carried
Yeah.
over the line.
Like, had it not been for Fremantle's back
They
kicking,
were
would not
horrible.
be in.
They were horrible in Perth, but West Coast were just worse somehow.
Yeah.
Now,
So that's what I'm saying.
yeah.
Like, it's not the players being out. I think it's the way they're playing and it's the other teams somehow being worse than them. In saying that, I think they'll win in Brisbane, but we'll save that for next week.
Like, going on to the St Kilda side, Jack Higgins, yep, great. But I think the player for me that stood out, and if you get awards for this, like the clutch moment, Jack Higgins' clutch moment, but Zach Jones. I truly think that had he not smothered the ball,
Smother at the end, yep.
there could have been a Carlton mark
Could have been.
after the goal siren.
I actually watched that footage back a couple times, and I think it was Elijah Hollands who kicked the ball, and Jones smothered. I think Ashton Moy was there. He was only 5 metres away from the play. So
Yeah.
if that wasn't smothered, there was every chance there could have been a mark after the
Yeah.
siren, but obviously it didn't happen.
I think
so.
it would have been
Smother of
marked
the
just
year.
before the siren. But shout
For
out
the
to
siren.
Zach Jones. Great work.
And
And I want to
set
actually
up
say
the
this.
Higgins goal.
He did set up the
Yep.
Higgins goal.
And
Now,
he cops
He
it.
played
I
a
just- I-
great role.
thank you for
Okay.
mentioning that because this is what I want here. And please, if you're going to bag a player, make sure whoever that was that sent it to him, I hope like you're happy because of he set up one of the greatest final moments of a game.
The bloke is all
Like
effort.
he's heart on his sleeve type of guy.
Mm.
Like I love him. I hate the fact that he gets criticized
So do I, mate.
so often.
Yep.
And it's to any AFL player. They're there because of they've been prospected or they've been
They've worked their whole
seen-
lives to get
yeah.
there. Yeah.
like
And they're
I
all
just
different.
think he's the pure personification of like determination, grit, overcoming the hate.
It's
Like,
what it's about.
Honestly, like I can't like I could have a podcast here just by myself talking about like Zach Jones and how like thankful I am the fact that he doesn't quit because of the hatred comments, and I love the fact that earlier on in the year he exposed one of them.
Yeah, 100%. That's great.
Like it's absolutely amazing to see that. You know what?
I don't.
I hope whoever you are, if you somehow
And
come across this, that you've ever criticised
I
Zach
really
Jones.
hope that the Saints and Ross and all the boys celebrated him and
Oh.
that, because what a way that is to go into next year, going, look, this guy's not glamorous. He's not going to get any awards. He's not going to get 40 every week, but look what he did for our team on the
It's
weekend.
it's that 1%.
And you guys can do the same thing.
Yeah.
It's those.
From Jack Steele
It's the-
down
He's
to...
a fantastic role player.
yeah.
It's the role play. It's the effort. It's the okay. I might not get the ball, but the Smother's a perfect example of.
That's right.
He,
Well, I can save
he
the
knew-
game. Yeah.
He knew at that moment. I just have to put my body on the line, go for the smother, put it all on the line, and it's
inspiration.
Especially during
stuff.
those
Yeah.
moments
Now,
when it can
I'll-
It's
change
like
the
that
game.
wavelength, 'cause
I'll
that
t-
lifts
yeah.
the whole team.
Yeah.
I'll take that.
It's what we do
I'll
really
bring
well.
that comment back. This is why I think he's such an amazing player. If he let those comments affected him, I honestly don't think he would have played.
No. Yeah.
Because it's just one of those
He's
things
a,
that he's
he's
able
a very,
to
very
you know,
strong man.
flush out, expose it, but okay, great. Like, yeah, so once again, thank you, Zach Jones. Amazing player, and I mean...
Zach Jones, Woodsy's boy of the week. My
He-
one
he would-
is a bit different.
he-
I mentioned
he
the
is-
dart.
He is my boy of the week.
The dart, so close. 9 goals, 7 from 7 kicks. Like, 7 from 7 kicks. Like,
Yeah.
I do bad kicking is bad football, but, like, seriously, how hard is
It's
it?
impressive.
Just kick a goal at 100% like the dart does. You end up with 9-1, I think, so could have had 10. Sort of ruined it, but either way, 9 goals is 9 goals. But on the other end, in a 100 or 93 or whatever it was, 100-point loss. He started the game tagging Tom Stewart, if you don't mind, after not playing senior footy for a couple of weeks. Jack Hutchinson, they just go, it's our last game. No one else is really rocking up. We just throw the kid in the middle. He's only played a handful of AFL games. Threw in the middle for 24 touches and a goal, if you don't mind. Boy of the week
Not
by
bad.
the Flemington Straight. In a 100-point loss, he had 24 and a goal. That is not bad going for a bloke that hasn't played much AFL football. And a very good mate of mine. Might be my neighbour, so that might have swayed it. But great to see Hutch balling like that. The club gave him no love, no special post or anything for a career high. Was not happy about that, but found one of the photos from one of his games earlier, which we'll have to do. But a very, very good performance. John Newcomb in the wet, in his element as well, was pretty good, but he's always up there, so I had to share it around. Hutch's best game of his career to date, 24 and a goal. Here's my boy of the week. I was just so happy. I almost put the photo up. They ran out and it was bucketing rain and he had a massive smile on his face. I'm like, that's the country boy I know. That's
Yeah.
the boy from Poowong.
Country footy.
He is
That's right.
pumped to play in this sludge, and he absolutely dominated, which is good. And Hutchie kicking straight. He's a bit different to these two absolute embarrassments. Bad kicking is bad football time, boys. And last week I nearly blew a
Do you
gasket.
want me to just chuck them both on now?
I'm sick of this segment. And then these guys had to go and do this. Fremantle. All I've written here is you suck. Why are you around? Not much else I can say. And there's nothing I can say that'll hurt them as much as the fact that they'll have to think about that for 6 months. And how they cost themselves a finals berth just by the way they kicked the ball in the fourth quarter especially. Like, they were as even as you could get. Couple points at three-quarter time. They have their shots. They have their chances. And it's just like they don't give a shit. I was furious. And Caleb, my boy Caleb Strong, I was watching with his cousins who are great mates with my brother at the pub, cheering him on. He had one of his worst games of the season, which still wasn't a bad game. He had 19. but he kicked, I think, 0 goals 3 or 0 goals 4.
Yeah.
So when he was the main corporate, it was just an absolute mess. I was nearly ready to be sick. It was lucky that the Parma tasted delicious. I didn't end up being sick in the end, but like I was furious. Like I couldn't imagine how Justin Longmuir is feeling. Like it's just putrid. Like they were in the top 4, solidified. They lose that game to Essendon when they had it absolutely sewn up because they let them leak out the stoppage. They lose that game to GWS because Bailey Banfield decides to shove Jesse Hogan and give him an easy 50 when they're up by a couple points in the last couple minutes. Like, I hope they think about how bad their kicking was over the off-season. And that's horrendous, and it's still nowhere near as bad as this absolute rabble. You made a grand final last year, you have close to the best list in the comp, and you're almost fully healthy now. I don't know what else to say about Brisbane. But you can take this to the bank. They will lose a final because of their kicking. And I think it might be next week.
You reckon they'll lose next week against?
I think they will lose next week.
Against us. Well,
they've got no idea how to finish game off.
I think
they've got no idea how to kick straight in front of goal when they need to. Like Joe Danaher just rushing, kicking barrels against Collingwood. It's almost like, oh, we don't need to win this game. Could be in the top 4. And it's going to cost them. Bad kicking is bad football, and it will lose you games, and they will lose a final because of it.
Well, as I highlighted earlier, 21 behinds, you just simply can't have that. That emphasises that. Well, if you're saying bad kicking, I'm actually going to Brisbane next week, so I'll be seeing how that pans out. So
of them bottling their own season.
I'm a bit crazy, but yeah, I am going. But hopefully they do.
I would go as well, mate.
But we'll see how it goes.
People were shaking their heads at me when I walked in this morning to record the pod. I said I would rather be going to Brisbane if I'm Hawthorn this week. 100% I would. Because we've got a great record against them. Their minds are just loose, like they're not set. And you can see that in a game. But they'll dominate it. They dominated that Giants game, kicked horrendously, let them back in, and lost it in the last quarter by letting the littlest guys in the comp run and rings around them. They're easy to beat, mate. Like, Carlton could rock up with the team they sent to West Coast, and I reckon they'd beat them.
Nah.
If it's not for Lachie Neale, they'd be nowhere.
Yeah.
I'm like, and it's the end of the season, and I've been waiting to do this, and hopefully I don't have to do it in the finals, but I'm sure they'll do it to me again and put me through it. Congratulations. Brisbane Lions are the bad kicking is bad football, not champions, but biggest losers. They are the ones.
I'm interested to actually go through at some point. I'm interested to go through
embarrassment
and see how many teams have appeared up and how many times. Because I remember Port Adelaide was up there a couple of times. And they haven't made an appearance recently, so good for them.
Okay. I still don't like them because of Darcy Byrne-Jones' shin.
We'll wait and see.
They've been
okay. And did
Good
I not
point.
say that you did not have to worry about that as well at the time?
No, we don't have to worry. And it actually did help our season a lot because we had to learn a lot out of that, which was good. So in a way, it was expert coaching from Sam Mitchell, who will win the Coach of the Year. I've got no doubt about that. Speaking of awards, the awards night is tonight as this podcast comes out on a Thursday. Thursday night, the 29th of August, will be the awards night and the All-Australian selection.
I want to stop you there because there's 3 players I think that are really hard done by.
Yep. I'm looking forward to seeing this as well, but go ahead.
So, first of all, me being a Saints supporter, I think Rowan Marshall.
I'll give you that.
I'll say for this one I can easily take one out. I think Rowan Marshall's had a better season than Max Gawn.
And you compare them, right? Marshall's stats are better. It's not all about
position.
Stats. Fine. Go
position.
again.
Position.
He played the ruck on his own for the whole year. Max did the same thing, but Marshall's stats are better, and he's from memory, he's easily kicked more goals and been more impactful for the Saints. Saints without Marshall, like you could say, yes, Melbourne without Gawn are hopeless, but like, come on, they're even enough. And Max missed a couple games and been pretty average in a couple games. Marshall's been more consistent. He had to have at least been in here.
Now I'm obviously looking and going, okay, the positions, which positions like this for the rucks, I can see at least 3. Darcy Cameron, Max Gawn, and Tristan Sherry. Now, of those 3, Tristan Sherry I think should be a walk-in.
Yep.
However, the other players is Nick Floston from Richmond.
Yeah. Little bit rough, I think.
Obviously, with the performance of his team, can
I
understand.
think these days
I
they
don't
pick,
know.
they
The
pick
problem
defenders
is
who have heaps of possession and
Yeah.
meters gain and stuff
the
like
problem is I don't know who I'd replace him with, and the other one was James Rowbottom. He had a good year, but then again, once again, who would I replace him with? And I'm like, okay, well, I'm saying they're hard done by, in the sense of okay, those are three players I would have expected. Darcy Cameron, well done. I'll give credit there. That was a shock for me. I wouldn't have picked him as
I think I'd pick it as well. No.
there, but obviously we'll have to wait and see to see the team, and we'll critique it next week.
You will.
There might be a few
And just the thing, I'll go back to a discussion we had
disgruntled fans in
a couple
if their players don't get picked, and
Always
couple
is each year. Always
weeks
is.
ago. We had the discussion when I was trying to get you on board with Sam Mitchell for Coach of the Year. And I said, this is a team that was 0-5, and he's going to bring it to the finals, and we're going to have one, maybe two All-Australians.
well, at the time, can I say,
and
when-
two
when you're
Rising Star
hold on.
nominees.
Hold on, when you're selling it to me, you did said nothing about making it to the finals. You just said we've had a good year, we've exceeded expectations. I just want to hold that clear that he had
Well,
no
I
faith.
was saying
He
to
had
you,
no faith
Oh.
in Hawthorn winning a final.
no one did. So,
But
and no one does.
I feel like three players is.
Well, they won't pick James Sicily because they
Yeah.
hate him,
I think
but he's the best captain in the comp.
I'll call it now. D'Ambrosio, is that how
No,
you pronounce
Cripps.
it?
Boxy.
D'Ambrosio. Yeah.
D'Ambrosio. Probably I'd go with the trade of the year. At the start
Yeah.
of the year, you can't be telling
A
me.
huge Dodoro dub, as usual.
I was going to say, you can't be telling me that you were going, like rubbing your hands going, oh, this
Oh,
guy.
I thought he was.
This
I
guy's
thought,
going to be in the All-Australian squad at the end of the year. This guy is
no,
going
that's,
to
that's easy, mate. There wasn't a soul that thought that.
No, I'm there going,
I
like,
was
this is
thinking
why
he
I'm
might
saying
play 5 games off halfback
Yeah.
and be all right.
absolute trade steal, and I'm going the trade steal of the year because of,
It's the recruit of the year.
yeah. Like, can you, I'm just quickly glancing over it. Can you pick anybody else who has been traded at the new club getting All-Australian in the All-Australian squad from this?
Well, he's
Like, there's nobody else I can see.
he's on
And-
the wing. If they
yeah.
pick it properly, he's on the wing because you could pick an actual wingman, not a midfielder. Like, surely they don't put Patrick Cripps out on the wing. Like,
No.
they're not
Yeah.
wings. You got to pick the wings that are wings.
Well,
And the other one is Dylan
truly
Moore,
believe you've got
who
to
is in the
pick-
Dusty Club,
yeah.
which we talked about before. I think it was 20-1 for the year average. He's the best small forward in the competition. It is not close.
I've said it to you.
And his impact on Hawthorn is you can't actually even explain.
Yeah, I've said it to you. The All-Australian team should be from the selectors. This is the team that we would want to run out on grand final day for this year. But because of they've been the best performing in their position, and okay, there might be a bit of gelling. It might be okay. Will we play one ruck? Will we play two rucks? One off the bench, or will we play a tall forward? Who like this is the thing. I rank all Australian teams based on would this team win a premiership, and most of the time the answer would be yes because of it's a team of champions. But there've been times where you overload that team, and it's
With
like
midfielders who can't defend.
yeah,
That's true.
or midfielders that can't play forward. It's like,
Yeah.
well, hold on. No, you're not picking the best defender.
There's a couple of big calls to be made as well. I
But-
think that Jacob Wiedering doesn't make it. What do you think about that?
He's been in the squad for the last, I think, 4 years and has not made the 22.
My personal opinion
You-
is
you
they'll
go
pick him
to-
because they don't want the backlash they'll get from Carlton's fans, but I don't think he's close.
I keep going to like, okay, you bring someone in, who do you take out? With your All Australian team, it's like, well, if I can't really do it here because I'd actually
Jeremy
have to,
McGovern is the fullback.
I'd have to go.
Mm.
These are the forwards. These are the midfielders. These are the defenders. These are the ruck. Okay, how do I go now? Okay, if I'm picking Tristan Sherry, Max gone on the bench, or he's not going to be anywhere else but bench for me. Darcy Cameron, can he play elsewhere, or is he?
The one I'm really excited,
Is he a
like I was
bench?
just saying, is is McGovern. He's easily has to be the fullback.
Yeah.
So the main one for me is Andrews and Wiedering. Which one do you take? Or do you go small and go McGovern and Luke Ryan? And there's so many ways to go with the way the setup of the team, which is really exciting.
Pick some height, though.
You pick your
There's some
6
height.
best defenders in position.
Yep.
And then 1 on the bench.
Well,
That for me, like,
who are you picking out of Andrews and Wiedering? I'm picking Andrews.
all right, I'd probably be going Andrews, but you might
Same.
they might go Wittering on the bench. Once again,
You can't have 3 tall defenders.
No, but I'm
No.
saying you go 1 off the
You
bench.
got to have balance.
Yeah, no,
gotta
but you
have
go
balance.
1 off the bench.
Yep.
So
No,
for
it's still too many.
No, I'm just going for me. You pick your 6 best defenders in position, and then you go 1 on the bench.
Cameron or
pick your-
Curnow?
Huh?
Cameron or Curnow?
I can't.
You know who I'm picking.
Yeah, I know who you're picking, but that's such a tough one. Like, as I said, I'll go into midfielders. You pick your 5 best midfielders in position, plus your ruck, so 5 plus ruck, and then you have a midfielder on the bench. Then you pick your 6 best forwards in position. Now, technically, you could play 1 full forward, 1 centre half forward. Curnow, full forward. Cameron, centre half forward.
Jesse Hogan.
Oh, so Jesse Hogan. Sorry.
You can't not pick.
No, I'm
Colin
just.
Gillis.
He's
just-
definitely in
you
there.
can't-
But
you
that's
can't-
the main
Absolutely.
discussion.
No, no,
So
but
the
that-
2 main discussions I've
that's what I'm
heard
going. You
is
just mentioned those
Wiedering,
two.
is
Obviously
Wiedering and
Hogan.
Curnow.
Obviously, it's Hogan, and then I agree. It's who else would you pick, and then
It's nice that they gave Harry a mention, but he's
Yeah.
not close.
like
yeah, no,
you pick your
not
6
close.
best forwards.
That
then
sounds
you
Similar
like
put
with
Colin
on the
fan
bench.
as
Waterman.
well.
I think
Yeah.
halfway through Waterman was there.
Curnow
He's
could
not
play
there
off
though.
the bench.
I'm not picking Curnow.
No, I'm just saying Curnow could be the bench player because of you pick your 6 best.
Your bench is too tall. There's not enough pace.
No, but
Curnow's work
Yeah.
rate's not great.
but you pick your 6 best.
Overall.
6
no.
best forwards. Pick your 6 best forwards.
Jeremy Cameron's given you helping
then
defence.
who's
His work
the
rate's the
seven?
best of any
He does.
forward in the
Who
comp.
is the 7? That's this is my stance. And then
Jason Horn-Francis.
okay. No, okay. And then you got 3 on the bench, and the 4th
Or
person
Brent
on the bench.
Daniels.
4th person on the bench would just be out of the players, who is the next best lined up, or who can play a. It could be a multi-positional player. It could be the utility. It could be, but that's how I'd be picking this, and I'm glad I don't have to pick it, and it will be picked
What-
tonight as you're watching this, or if you're watching this after. Please let us know your thoughts, because it is always a great chat, and it always comes up, and there will always be players that are unfortunate to miss out, and their team supporters, like Carlton did last year when Callum Wilkie got picked, they will
Deservedly.
be up in arms.
Yep.
But the thing is, like Callum Wilkie was a deserved pick. Now, I'm not going to say, do I think Jack Sinclair? I can't
think he
say. I
makes it
can't
this
see him making it.
No.
As I
My-
said,
my
I
backs-
thought Rowan Marshall was the one that would have been secured as only.
My backs would be McGovern and Andrews and Ryan and Blakey and Sicily, but I'm biased. And then for coverage,
Hey, no, you need 2 more. So who are your next best?
Houston, maybe.
Yep.
I think Dale goes underrated. I think he's been great.
I've got a question for you. Where do you reckon Nick Newman sits in there? Do you reckon he's in the squad? He's obviously. I feel like he's hard done by personally.
I
I
agree.
feel like he's
It might-
very
It's the
underrated.
same thing. We spoke about this in
very
trivia.
underrated.
Wh-
Yeah.
For non-Carlton fans, I feel like they don't even think about him
Yeah,
Yep.
because he's not pretty.
but I think
and
that's
Sard is
He goes
the
under the
exciting
radar.
one.
Yeah.
Everyone goes,
But I
oh,
think-
Sard
Wilkie
has
gets the ball.
more flair off half
Yeah, I
back.
think
That's
that's
what he's
like
known for.
Nick Newman has not been
but
defeated.
that was
I
like
don't think.
Wilkie
all
last
year.
year.
Mm.
Everybody, like Saints fans, are there going, "Oh, this is deserved. Yes, he is there." Everyone else is going, "Who?"
And Nick Newman's that hybrid.
Like, no,
He can play one-on-one,
I
but
think
then he can use the ball as
it's
well.
the same.
Correct.
It's the same.
Yep.
The same, basically, story as Callum Wilkie is. He's the one where you know what he's like as a supporter of the club, but if you don't support him, he's a him.
If you're an outsider, you don't
yeah.
know.
Yeah,
And I
that
think
well.
that Whitfield has to be on there. I think he led the disposal, so they'll probably pick him. But like you said, that's not up to us to select. We can just yap about it
luckily.
and give our opinions. I would like to select it, but obviously you cop a bit of backlash. Apparently you don't do things right according to all the experts.
Anyone
around
else
the
you
place.
feel hard done by at all? in the list. I feel Flanders for Gold Coast could be
Yeah,
one that's
Would-
a little bit tough.
Would you have
down
had
by.
Jake Newcomb around there?
He's been great, Flanders.
His start wasn't good enough for
Okay.
Jai, but he's right here though.
That's why I was asking, because of his just.
It looks nothing like him now. This one, but
No.
we're very grateful
Never
to have him.
does.
Thank you, Simone. But
You
yeah,
can-
Flanders.
You can almost go
Flanders
that
very
he's
stiff.
Dinnervan now.
Yeah, Flanders very stiff. I mean, top 5 in disposals in the comp.
He's
led
been
the
one of my favourite
midfield.
players all
Yeah.
year to watch.
Everyone's favourite in Supercoach.
Supercoach, yeah, beginning 100 basically every week if you guys
Your
play.
favourite player was it?
But I'd still take Caleb Strong over him just from what he did at the start of the year. You know,
Yeah.
the amount and weight of disposals and the fact that he's kicking a lot of goals, crucial goals. I think that's Sam's next step. And trust me, I've played on him before. He was a pure forward, so I know he can kick goals. And I think he'll kick a
I
lot
won't
next
ask
year.
questions into.
Oh, I flogged him. Don't worry.
I'll make sure I ask him when I interview him. If I ever interview him, what are your thoughts on Aiden Box? I want to
No,
know.
we won't be able to share them on air. Either way, it will be selected. It will be great either way. It would represent the sport very well. But the other awards are going to be picked on the same night. The Rising Star Boys. I think it's a 2-horse race. Ollie Dempsey and George Wardlaw. I think Dempsey might edge just from
I think
the fact that
Dempsey,
he's played pretty much every
Yeah.
game. But obviously
Yeah.
the discussion will reign. Should the asterisk stop Reid or Darcy winning it or
Yeah.
not?
It's a great
I think it
question
should.
to
I
host.
think the fact that it's not the Brownlow where it's the fairest and best. It is purely a Rising Star, and it should be adjudged that we're not judging a best and fairest of the Rising Stars. We are judging who is the best player that has played less than 10 games entering the season and is under 22. I think that's the biggest thing.
I
for
would
me.
disagree just from the fact that it's this, again, we've had this discussion before when the Reid and Darcy incidents happened. But my 2 points are, one, you want your league to be, represent how you want your sport to be played at grassroots level. And as good as they've been and as dominant as Darcy and Reid have been, you don't want your kids to go out thinking, I can tackle people hard and illegally, but as long as I'm a good player, I'll win all these awards. And that might sound
True.
silly, and that's not probably something the AFL even care about. But for me, I like that, and I like that our winners are all the fairest, and they don't make acts like that, which is why I love it. Because that's the award you win when you come in, so that sets you up for a career going, all right, I've won the Rising Star, which means I'm considered fair. I don't do things like that. And I'm not going to for the rest of my
but
career.
it's never been.
The other one
It's
is,
never been promoted as the best and fairest or the fairest.
it doesn't
and best.
matter about the promotion, though.
No, but the Brownlow is the fairest and best.
Brownlow's the best player in the comp.
No,
but you've got to be fair to win it.
No.
The same as the Rising
The
Star.
Brownlow is fairest and best. That's how it's
As is all the
promoted.
best and fairest awards at your club.
Yeah,
They're all the same.
but if you get.
Because that's my other point. Our sport is unique in that way, so I like it. I like all the awards to be that way.
So what you're saying is if you get rubbed out, you shouldn't win your club's best and fairest.
Yep.
Okay. At least you're consistent. Like I
Yep.
disagree with the Brownlow's the fairest and best, and it's been like that. I think the Rising Star, however, because of I don't know if it's happened before. It may have. We'll have to go through the archives, but it's the best young player. It's not the fairest and best young player. If it's going to be promoted as the fairest and best, okay, not a problem. Go for it. Have the
Sure.
asterisk there. But until you promote it as the fairest and best, I think this discussion is going to continue because of the wording. And just a reminder, I know
Well,
Darcy
there'll be
Wilson.
rules. There'll be rules written
Yeah.
into the award.
Darcy Wilson, no chance, but it would have been pretty.
Played every game, I think.
I think, but it
Yeah,
would have been
that's a
pretty.
great
It
effort.
would have been pretty ironic had Darcy Wilson won it. And you're looking at me trying to figure out why I'm saying that. Can you
Yeah,
remember?
I wouldn't have a clue.
It's a great discussion point.
No, do you know
Yours has
why?
been.
Do
Sorry?
you know why I'm saying if Darcy
Oh, because
Wilson,
Harley tackled Darcy
Yeah.
Wilson.
Yeah.
that would have been the greatest talking point of Harley
Unfortunately,
Reid gifting Darcy
he plays
Wilson,
for St
but-
Kilda and they don't get much credit, Woods, which is just something you got to live
But
with.
I would like to see him in the top. He's easily
100%.
top 5.
Yeah, and I think that, look, I could say the same thing, and he's not going to get close. Hawthorn only had 2. So we had 3 All-Australians in the 40 and 2 Rising Star Awards. So that shows me it's a team that's like doesn't have superstars.
Who are your two rising stars? Cole Shadir and
Nick Watson.
Nick Watson.
Yeah.
And if the Wizard had kicked, even half as many goals, he's been shocking. Maybe, that doesn't bother us. But it's a great year. I think Dempsey has been phenomenal. He won Geelong a couple games at the start of that year. We're on that run.
Yeah.
So I very much enjoy watching him. He's a very talented kid. But yeah, Wilson's been great. It'd be interesting to see. I think they also give the most courageous the MVPs as well on this
I'm trying to
night,
think of those ones, but
which could go anywhere. They're voted by the players, so we wouldn't really have a clue. And best captain, which is probably a two-horse race between the Bont and Cripper. I know you probably have a vote
Yeah.
on that.
Obviously, I'm biased, so Chris, I'll
I
let you
can tell
explain
you who
first.
it's not going to be, and that's Callum Mills.
Yeah, it's not quite going to be
I
your
was
man,
going to
Cal.
say,
Don't think so.
I was going to say, what about the team that's won,
Yeah.
the minor premiership? But yeah, Callum Mills won't be there.
Bont and Cripper have been so similar.
I think Bont.
Their teams have
They
gone
have
through
been,
patches
yeah.
where they've been really underperforming, and they have been the one to literally perform off their face
that's right.
and bring them up. I don't know how you really split them, and I don't know which one's going to captain this side, but they're both going to be side by side in that midfield.
Yeah.
They might be side by side on Brownlow night,
Mm.
and they're going to be side by side whether one's got the C and one's got the VC.
So who's got?
How do you
MVP?
pick it? I still have the Bont as the best player in the comp, but
Yep.
the captaincy isn't about that. Part of it is
No, well, I'm going MVP. I think the Bont.
he's just got everything. Cripper hasn't quite damaged on scoreboard. His
Yeah.
kicking efficiency's not great. He's not as damaging with his disposal. But for me, his captaincy is just I'm going to ruin my body getting myself in.
You see how
How about
battered
you bloody
his-
go with me? And they
how
don't.
battered his shoulders is every week. You see all
Yeah.
the strapping on him.
And the only thing that I think might cost Cripper is sometimes the team don't go with him, which isn't his fault. He's trying to lead them, but sometimes
Well,
just go,
I think what you're saying with the shoulders is it's a bit too much carrying the team.
Well, he's done that for years, mate. He's
Yeah.
done that for years when.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. how
like
his
for
shoulders
example,
are still like.
in 2018 when we lost to Giants by 146 points with 16 blokes on the field during that time just to dig out
Yep.
what he could.
Yep.
But I saw, for example, the Western Bulldogs game early in the season. I think he had 11 disposals in a goal in the last quarter. Correct me if I'm wrong, but he just did everything to try to carry that
Yeah.
team and couldn't get it done.
It's
so
literally like the captain you see
so
in
those
like
examples like that.
American high school movie. If we're going to lose, it's not because I didn't try. It's
No.
not going to be my
Yeah.
fault. And that's Cripper this year. So he'll win awards. Whether he wins this captaincy one, whether he's the All-Australian captain, I don't know. It's
I
going to
mean,
be
we'll
him
have
or
to wait
Bont.
and see, but
And I think the way that Bont's teammates usually always go with him, and that's not a knock on Cripper because it's
No.
not his fault, but that might edge him. That's just my call. But that's all for
Very
us to wait
equal.
and see.
Very cool.
Season is done. All 24 rounds and an opening round. We had it all, Woods, and that's about enough from us in the AFL. We'll be back next week to do a proper finals preview. Make sure you tune in for that. But just before that, a little bit of local footy. It's over, I think, from your point of view, Woods. But for me, it is finals time. And it was elimination final weekend on the weekend. It was an absolute belter. Nanagoon edged Kilcundabass. They were a little bit better. They were a little bit mismatched in that contest. But Inverloch Conwack, my boys, just got the job done in one of the most chaotic games I've ever called in my life. It was a day out of the middle of January for the first half. Absolutely smick conditions. Ball was pinging around faster than I could
Love to
use
see
words
this.
to describe. And then, late in the third quarter, the 50-year storm came in. It was absolutely humming it down. It was wind sideways, no exaggeration.
Yeah.
The box was shaking. The post was shaking. And Inverloch kicked the first couple goals via Dylan Clark. Got out to a 2-goal lead, 12 points. And then Tooradin Delmore went down the other end, kicked for goal from 45, hit the post, left a mark on the post. People on the wing at the other end saw that and heard it hit the post. And the goal umpire didn't even look at the field umpire, put up the 2 fingers.
Wow.
Absolutely unbelievable. The guy that kicked it went straight back to the press, didn't even celebrate because he knew it hit the post. The field umpire comes in, and before all that could happen, one of the Inverloch
insane.
Conwack defenders might have called the umpire a see you next Tuesday and a cheat. And he got sent off and reported. He's
Yeah.
got a week
Pretty bad.
since then, and they were awarded another one. So they were awarded a goal when it was a behind, and then they were awarded another free kick in the goal square, and they eroded the 12-point deficit in 10 seconds.
oh,
That's incredible.
And then Inverloch were lucky enough to go down the other end and kick a goal to win the game. And then the scoreboard was wrong for the last 8 minutes. It had them up by 6 points when they're actually only up by 5. So they were defending, thinking that they were only going to give up a draw if they gave up a goal, would have actually given up the loss and the season. It was all happening. And then the siren went, and I'm not even joking, half a second later, Turin Delmore kicked a goal that would have won them the game, but the umpire called time just before he released it. So it was all happening. I was lost for breath. It was very, very hard to commentate at all because the wind was 50-year storm,
Just
but
so
they
much
stay
going on.
alive. And the back-to-back dream is alive. And as you see with my bracket here, they'll play Nanagoon on this Sunday to try and keep that dream alive. But all eyes will be on Saturday, where Prime Train himself and Phillip Island will face Coral Inn in a rematch of a game that was a draw earlier this year. So they haven't been separated this year, Woods, for a spot in the grand final. It's going to be a massive one. And just quickly on the netball courts, there was a couple upsets. So both favourites lost on the weekend, which is pretty interesting. Turin and Delmore on the left there in that top one were third and coming off a grand final appearance last year. Got done. And then Kilcunda Bass were at home on the weekend and they lost to Coral Inn, which is pretty big news. But the main thing here is that Inverloch Comwack A grade, their first grade netball team, went undefeated last year, won the premiership, and they have not lost this year either. So it's basically who can beat them if that's even possible. Semi-final weekend this weekend. I'm absolutely pumped to see that. Make sure, we haven't really mentioned it, it'll be on the Crumbs podcast. Make sure you check that out with Simone Wern and Alice Wilson. A little bit of an AFLW preview because that kicks off this weekend, boys.
Exciting.
9 huge games.
We'll make sure we actually ask you who you think can and can't.
Well, North Melbourne can't. I've got to stay consistent. No, I don't want to be too mean for them this year.
If you remember last season, during the AFLW season, that's where we all started the who can and can't win the flag. And Boxy was adamant that North Melbourne couldn't, and they were runners up.
Just didn't.
They were runners
close.
up.
Yeah, it was one of the best grand finals I've seen. An absolute ripper to watch. Brisbane, obviously team to beat. Got it done. A very, very good women's football team they are. Take in all of that. Have a rest because it's a massive 4 weeks of AFL men's finals coming up. We'll be back next week to wrap it up and pump you towards it. Give us a little preview of what we think's going to happen. Stick around as well on our socials. We might even be able to put out a bit of analysis of who can and can't win the flag in writing form. So make sure you stay across our socials, like and subscribe, and we'll see you next week.